All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Thursday, April 7th, 2022. If you've not done so already, please subscribe, like, comment, etc. And come find me on carnivoretrades.com if you're interested in swing trading alerts and analysis. All right, so a mega squeeze today off the lows. Market was really quiet in the morning. I even tweeted this out around 10 or 11 o'clock. I said, there's only 25 million shares traded on the spiders so far. And it really just feels like we're consolidating, doing some backing and filling. Half of Wall Street is watching Tiger Woods right now return to the Masters. So you get that kind of low volume float there. And a lot of put buying from retail came through the chain and the wires here. And, this is what happens. I say this repeatedly all the time, but don't short the lows. Don't buy puts at the lows. You got to short into resistance, not into support. And this is what happens here. So, they, kind of teased a breakdown just like they did yesterday. And, once, we cleared the, this 444 area again, they trapped the bears in here. And then we got back about 448, and there was pretty much a like a reverse waterfall. There was quite a bit of real estate once we got through that area, and we're just hovering around 450 right now. There is a straddle for tomorrow's options expiry on the SPY at around 450, and I believe I'm sure there's one at 450 for next week as well. So it's possible we could chop sideways really all next week, or maybe kind of be a little directionless, but a nice squeeze there off the lows. And again, just buying puts into the lows, just like buying breakouts. You don't want to buy, near the highs. You want to buy near the lows, be contrarian. And that's where all the meat is on the bone. There's no meat on the bone at the low already. You're already close to a breakdown area, or a support zone. So anyways, enough of my little sermon there. Let's take a look at the daily time frame here, the spiders. So I said yesterday, we can get rid of this now, this 448 area. But I said yesterday, we're coming into that 20 moving average, and, overall getting a bid off of that if we could hold it. And that's exactly what happened. So we held that yesterday, put in a little doji, and now getting a nice power move off of that, looking like we're going to close well above the 200-day moving average. And overall, again, a pretty good short squeeze for the most part here. And we got some nice juice off that 20 MA. Same thing on the triple Qs. So triple Qs, we talked about that 50 moving average. That tested today. And we held the 20 and the 50, and now we're, trying to get up to these highs here. So obviously your next zone of resistance would be this pivot low, and then you got that gap fill in there. So it's possible we could squeeze up a little bit tomorrow, but we do have that straddle at 450, so there's a good chance we could trade a little bit sideways. I know a lot of calls came in as well. So they're buying puts at the lows, and now they're trying to buy calls at the top. Of course, they're just retail's getting shaken around all over the place right now. But we'll see what we get tomorrow. It does look like we put in a nice little pivot here on the markets overall. I want to talk about Apple before we get into the other sectors. But so you got this. So Apple, had this kind of bullish pattern, little pullback into this kind of converging moving average area, and a nice reversal off the lows, just like everything else did today. But if this ends up being a higher low and we get another thrust in the market, there's nothing to say that this can't make new all-time highs. And I know that, the chart police are going to come out, and there's going to be a lot of people very, quite frankly, pissed off about that. But, I don't make the rules. I just follow them. And I mean, this is a big move off the lows. Yes, it's a short squeeze. Yes, it's a gamma squeeze. Yes, the macro doesn't make sense, but market mechanics matter. And, you guys got to pay attention to that. The yield curve can be inverted, the Fed can tighten all at once, but if there's too many bears in the market, there can be fuel for a squeeze, and the market makers will push it higher. So just be aware of that. I want to throw that out there. We could see new all-time highs on this chart if this ends up being a pivot low. There is going to be a lot of resistance up here, but I mean, you came down here and you pulled back. So making that higher low, wouldn't be surprised if we did that maybe after OPEX. So there's a lot of calls in the system on some of these big tech names, Tesla and Apple. But just be aware of that. That is definitely a possibility. Would not rule that out at all. Anyways, Diamond here, same deal. Pull back into the 50 and 20, getting a bid off that. So a little pivot there potentially on the Diamond. After that little ion reversal, nice pullback. So nothing to say this can't make higher highs, and maybe go test these pivots here around 358. Russell 2000, the weakest of the four major indices, just getting above the flat line. But again, a nice pivot. This is where they gapped it up. So this was essentially your breakout. This was the FOMC day, the 16th of March. So we came down, tested that. That's where the institutions were sitting, and we're getting a bid off that. So that looks to have put in some type of a short-term pivot. But again, the Russell does look very weak on the bigger time frames, weekly and the monthly. All right, semiconductors, same deal. This is where you gapped up on the 16th, came down, tested that. We got into a 0.75 retrace today. Right in between the 0.75 and the 618, and a nice little pivot there. So that does look like it has put in a pivot. Same thing with the IGV. So cloud software, this kind of 330-ish area has been a point of interest for the market makers. So this is kind of where they defended it, got below that, chopped around, and then you broke above it again and kind of back tested this area, back testing it again, and getting a pivot off that. So cloud software does look okay. Some of these cloud stocks look pretty good. Snowflake doesn't have a terrible chart. Yeah, this is a pretty decent chart there. There's some bullish call buying activity going on in that one. Unity, which I own, nice little reversal there after a pullback. Zoom, which I also own. Again, holding this kind of trend line here. I do like these charts here. I think cloud is in a pretty decent position right now. All right, moving on here. Transports. So finally, possibly finding its footing. Again, this is where you reversed. So you had to sell off and then this big reversal pivot here, big green, wide range green bar. And, just an oversold daily chart condition. So no surprise it's getting a bid, and they defended that level. We'll see if the transports can move higher. Again, 15,000 would be your psychological level, but then you'd also have this trend line. And, that's essentially where you broke down from. So around 15.4, 15.5. Here's your 200 moving average in that range. That would be your logical upside target in the near term. Rates continuing higher. What can you say? Just continuing to push up. But I have really no sell signal on any of these. And I still think that, the 30-year can get up to that 2.8 area. It's really not even that far away now. We're at 2.687. So we're really not that far from that target. And there's nothing to say these things can't push higher. They got all the momentum on their side. Until we get a big high volume reversal, they can continue to push higher. So we'll respect them for the meantime. Let's look at high yield. So HYG, again, continuing to be a concern. It's potentially put in a pivot. It's holding up right now. It had to hold this green bar. This is where you gapped up. Again, there's the 16th, but not really getting the bounce the rest of the market is. And this is a leading indicator, so this can remain suppressed for a little while, and the market can continue to bid, but this is something to watch moving forward. If this can't get off the canvas, that is going to be problematic moving forward, so obviously we have to keep an eye on that. Financials here. Let's see. There we go, financials. All right, so XLF here. Again, filling this gap, coming down, getting a bid off the lows. Broker dealers, same kind of deal. Obviously, this one does not gap, but a nice test candle right into this chop area. That's where you broke out. Put in a test candle and possibly a pivot there for XBD. Let's take a look at Morgan Stanley. We talked about that yesterday. That got into that double bottom area, made a slight lower low, and now is green. So maybe this can reverse. Upside target would be probably like the 88 zone, somewhere in that range, kind of a 50% fib, maybe that 20 moving average, 89 or so. Take a look at Goldman. We talked about this yesterday as well. And I said, what I say, 310. So that's right where it went. And getting a nice tail off of that. This, could easily get you 20 points on this one. I don't see any reason why I can't get up to about 330. But, again, I said, when you get these falling wedge patterns, typically you get a fake breakdown on the lower trend line and then a reversal. And that's kind of what happened today. So, you could get a good 20 points out of that. No reason I can't get up to that 330 area, but we'll watch that one. JP Morgan, as soon as this got above 131, it really helped the market in the afternoon, but it is coming a little bit off the highs, but did get back to the flat line and basically defended that double bottom area for the most part. But fins have been weak here. And again, yield curve inversions are not good for fins overall. So that will be something to monitor moving forward. Crude here. Continuing to hold up. It got a bit off this double bottom, potentially a wedge breakdown, but it is trying to put in a pivot here. So we'll see. It could be a fake breakdown. We talked about this yesterday. Sometimes you get that false move, that first false move. But if it does come up and make a lower high, which I think it probably needs to do in order to get through 95, if it comes up and makes a lower high somewhere around 105 area, then maybe it can break these lows here and push down to 90 and 85. Ultimately, that would be a very good buy area for the most part. XLE, not much to talk about, just been a powerhouse despite the weaker crude prices. Same thing with XOP and OIH, both holding up really, really well here. So lots of money flow still going into these stocks. Nat Gas did retest the highs So it got above this tail candle. It'll be interesting to see where it closes. It's still into double top though, and still into a lot of resistance. Sometimes you get a retrace after a good distribution candle like that, and it is pretty overbought in the short term. It's still like nat gas long term, but for the meantime, it is into a lot of resistance here. It doesn't mean it can't push up a little bit higher. You can tend to overshoot some levels sometimes, but overall, I think it is due for a good correction here. Anyways, dollar index also continuing to push up. And, what can you say? It's still into a wall of resistance on the weekly, but it's continuing to push higher. We'll see what it does tomorrow. By Friday's close, maybe they push it up into that 100 handle, but I don't see it getting much through that, at least in the near term. That's just a humongous wall of resistance up there. And if the 30-year gets up to that 2.8 target and starts to come back in and TLT gets a bid, the dollar will likely come back in as well. So just be aware of that, because there has been a positive correlation between the dollar and yields lately. All right. Metals here, gold not really doing it. I mean, it's been in this range for basically almost a month now. We're coming up on a month here that you've been in this range on gold. I think GDX right now is kind of the best indicator to look at for the strength of gold and where the next move is going to be. I do think gold, it does have that kind of bearish pattern here on the daily. So again, maybe it does break down to that 1875 area, but you'd have some pretty good support in that range if it were to do so. But just continue using the GDX for a leading indicator. Silver also just kind of stuck in this little channel as well. And again, use the SILJ for a leading indicator. I still like this pattern a lot on the weekly. I want to see where this closes the week tomorrow. But yeah, not a terrible pattern there on SILJ weekly. Above all, 4 major moving averages and just consolidating sideways. Nothing wrong with that. Platinum, trying to put in a pivot here. You got a lot of support in this zone. I still think it needs to go lower. Same thing with palladium. It's trying to pivot here, but it's stair stepping down at the moment. We'll see if it can hold. It probably needs to go back down and test this 1915 area. Ultimately. And copper, really nothing too new to report. Again, it's still just kind of flagging here on the daily, so nothing too new there. All right, flipping over to the coins. All right, yeah, so this is Ether. So we had this line up here before. I kind of moved it down here. This is kind of really where you broke out of. So we're kind of getting that back test right now. You got the 20 moving average. You did sell pretty hard into it yesterday, and you're getting a bit of a muted bounce. So that is a little bit of a concern right now. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. You're back testing this wedge breakout pattern, and you're trying to put in a little doji. So sometimes you can get a doji will precede a pivot. So we did have a little micro pullback here. And then, sometimes you can get a doji and then a move higher after that. But again, you want to see it hold this trend line. And, these coins have been very good leading indicators for the equity markets. So a breakdown here would concern me a little bit for stocks moving forward. But if it can hold this area, hold the 50 moving average and get another move up, that would probably be good for stocks moving forward. However, I don't expect it to get through this trend line. This is a huge wall right now overall. Anyways, let's flip back over here. All right, let's see where the spiders are at. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left in the trading day. Let's just flip over to the intraday. All right, so yeah, spiders coming in off that 200 moving average. Nothing surprising there. A lot of people taking profits off the lows here. I know some of myself and some of the members were buying calls here intraday on this short squeeze. So, you want to lose your day trading buying power. You're getting some short or some day trader covering here going on into the close, but not a big deal here overall. Doesn't change the price action too much. You still got a really nice bid off that 20 moving average. And it'll be interesting to see. The market makers are probably going to close it right on that 200. We'll see where they close it for the day. You're right in that 448 area. We're about 60 cents away, so we'll see what we get. All right, guys. Anyway, take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.